4th, 2026 meeting of the Rybrook Zoning Board of Appeals. With us this evening, we're going to have 4 of the 5 members. One has been excused this evening. Therefore, any application coming before us is going to need a positive vote of 3 votes in order for the application to be approved. Each applicant has the right to request a delay for a future meeting where hopefully there'll be all 5 members. But you'll be able to make that decision either in the beginning of the meeting now or when it comes time for your application to be heard. We have 4 of the 5 board members. We have Village Attorney Pamela Venia, Building Inspector Steve Hughes, and Board of Trustees Liaison David Heiser, sitting over there in the corner. If you're going to be making a presentation, please come before the podium, state your name, the address, the nature of the variance, and your relationship to the applicant if you are not the applicant. Later in the meeting, after the presentation has been heard, we will open the floor for pros and cons. We have a couple of letters which we've received. They will be acknowledged at that particular point in time. So please hold any of the questions that you may have to that particular time when you're asked to come before the board. Our first application this evening is application ZBA 26-009. Hopefully I pronounced the name Ryan. Ryan? Ryan? Okay. Jason Ryan and Angela Ryan, 19 and 23 Dorchester Drive, construct a new tennis court and pool house. And in parentheses, proposed lot merger.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Chris Scalfo. I'm here appearing along with Jason, who resides at 19 Dorchester Drive. The application before the board is limited to a request for relief from the village 6-foot fence height limitations in connection with the proposed private residential tennis court. The variance request applies only to the height of the portions of the tennis court fence. The site plan that I have here, the 10-foot section would be the rear and the left side and the front, and we're returning 10 feet, 20 feet from the corner in the rear and from the front. So 20 feet stops at that, 10-foot height stops at 20 feet from each corner, and then we drop down to 5 feet, which is this location here, which is the entrance in the middle. So the 10-foot variance we're requesting is not the full court. The proposed court is, of course, for private residential use only. The 10-foot fence is intended to contain normal tennis play and reduce balls leaving the court enclosure. A 6-foot fence would technically enclose the court, but wouldn't provide adequate ball containment. Better containment reduces the need for players to leave the court, retrieve balls from landscaped areas, and approaching neighboring properties. The fence is an open athletic fencing, not a 10-foot solid privacy wall. The fence design has already been reduced where site conditions permit, as I showed you. The central portion of the right side is only 5 feet high because it faces inward towards the owner's backyard. The 10-foot height is concentrated along the portions of the court where balls could otherwise travel towards the street or neighboring properties. The court is positioned towards the rear left portion of the site to maximize its distance from the street. Substantial evergreen and deciduous landscaping is proposed to soften and screen views of the court and the fencing. As you can see, along the full rear, basically almost the full perimeter of the court, we have evergreens, these being white spruce that will grow upwards of 20 plus feet. Green emerald arborvitaes in the front, which will grow maximum 12 to 13. The same white spruce in the rear, which will grow again, to 20-plus feet. Along the pool line, these are sugar maples, columnar, which will grow upright, which can get upwards of 20 feet. The neighboring property in the rear, along the same property line, those have existing arborvitaes that are roughly 12 to 14 feet existing. The other neighboring property back here, there's also green arborvitaes here that are 10-plus feet. Sound attenuation screening is proposed along the areas where the additional buffering is appropriate, not to exceed 6 feet. And that would be the full left side and the rear only. We're going to leave the front open and, of course, the interior section open as well. As you said, there are a number of nearby residents that have submitted written support for this application. The applicant recognizes that several residents have expressed concerns and has addressed those concerns through fence placement, reduced fence height on the interior side, landscaping, sound screening, and the elimination of lighting. We promised that there would be no lighting up of the court ever. The applicant is willing to accept the condition requiring installation and continued maintenance of the approved landscape screening to be maintained. I have photographs which I'll show you of existing 10-foot residential tennis court fencing elsewhere in Rybrook, being provided only to demonstrate that this type of athletic fencing already exists in the village, and those other properties are not being presented as controlling precedent because each application must be evaluated on its own facts. Unlike some existing courts, this proposed includes a comprehensive landscape and sound mitigation plan. So this is somewhat of an enhanced version of the court with the evergreens around. And again, this side is not showing, but this whole section in here would be 5. So out of the 120 feet, 40 of it is 10 feet, and the balance is 5. So in closing, the applicant is not seeking a uniform 10-foot fence around the entire court. The design has already been reduced to 5 feet across the central interior section, where additional height is not necessary. The 10-foot portions are limited to areas where increased ball containment serves as a practical purpose and helps protect the surrounding properties. Proposed fence is open in construction, substantially screened by existing and proposed landscaping, supplemented by sound attenuation materials where appropriate, and associated with a private residential court that will have no lighting. The applicant has also received meaningful support from the nearby residents and is willing to maintain approved landscaping as a condition of the variance. So we respectfully submit that the benefit to the applicant outweighs any potential impact on the neighborhood, and that the proposed design represents a reasonable and carefully mitigated solution. For those reasons, we respectfully request that the board approve the fence height variance. So I will show you. Here we have. So this is a tennis court down on Lincoln Avenue. This is from Street View.
Chris, can I ask you each, as you go along for each one,
Sorry?
can I ask you a question on each, if I could, for them?
Sure.
So if we start at the one at Lincoln, what size property is that, and was a variance needed for that?
Okay, so, yeah, I went into the village website to look at both properties. I did not see any application or anything for, number one, the court or the fencing. Was not able to find anything online. This property was the Murray property, Peter Murray.
Yeah.
That's partial portions of that property is Harrison, but this is 3-acre lot.
3-acre lot.
Yes. This photo here is emerald greens, which are at a mature height. So that's eventually what, what can happen, but that's obviously years down the road. And that is what we have along the fence line here. We have green giant arborvitaes in the front, which grow at 3 to 4 feet a year, based on conditions. This photo is somewhat of a rendering of street view. This is also Lincoln Avenue, 54 Lincoln. This is 56 Lincoln.
Do you know the size of each of those plots?
56 Lincoln is a 2-acre lot.
Pamela, we can make any, if we did approve, we could make a contingent upon the planning board approving the tennis court, correct? Yeah, although, I don't wanna have, if we went that route, I don't wanna just give authority just to build a 10-foot fence for no reason.
No, not yet, please.
Oh, that's actually Pine Ridge Park,
I think
which
they
I
need insurance.
lived next door to for 12 years. And I never remember sitting in my backyard going like, why did I buy this house? I mean, I had the tennis courts literally 50 feet from my deck.
Glenn, have you finished?
What?
Have you finished your question?
Well,
This is,
I just did, my questions were just on each one. I'm
Oh.
just curious the size of each one, if you wanted to add it.
Yeah, so the two combined lots wind up just shy of an acre on Dorchester.
Do you want me to ask more questions, Don, or?
No, I mean, if you
If you have them,
keep
go ahead.
going.
No, that was it.
Chris, you mentioned sound mitigation,
Yes.
and in the application, there's something about sound screening, and I'm not quite sure.
Well, it basically goes hand in hand. It becomes screening on top of it being sound deadening.
No, are you referring to the trees, or?
No, that would be screening on the actual chain link fence.
Like what's in the other ones?
Yes.
The green tarp or
Yeah,
whatever.
it comes in, a myriad of colors, be it black, green.
Okay, but
white.
they're putting that up too.
Well, based on the planning board discussions, with the neighboring properties, everybody has a concern about, sound. So we proposed that we would do sound attenuation on the left property line and the rear. Keep the front open and the interior section open because it's Jason's property.
With respect to, when I looked at the plans, I thought, and if you can confirm this, I'd appreciate it, the distance between the curb and the fence, I thought I saw 74 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, from the court to the property line,
Okay.
and then you have the village right-of-way.
What will I see from the street?
Well, you have, again, we have across the front, I better get back to that another one.
In other words, when you're going to be planting, are they going to be 5-footers, 6-footers, 7-footers
Okay,
initially?
we're planting, we're starting it, I think the last discussion with the landscaper was, based on Mike Nowak's conversation, the perimeter fencing, we would start at 7 to 8 feet. Down at the street, we're proposing 6 to 7. Now, just recently with the storm we just had, there was a large maple tree on the far left corner of the lot that fell. So that opened up our eyes to go with a street tree planting with the red maples as an enhanced version of it. This would be the front street view. So basically arborvitae's across the front and stopping at where the existing lot line is before the lots are merged. So you'll have, within 2 to 3 years, you'll have no sight line to the court. So you have the street buffer, and then you have the street buffer up against the fence. So the arborvitae's up at the top by the court, actually, almost, our elevation change from street to court level is about 5 feet. So planting the maples takes care of the elevation change, where the arborvitae's down on the street become the instant camouflage from the street.
Now, I know you're not an architect, but, you know, you stayed at a Holiday Inn. But one of the things I've noticed when I attended sporting events where there was a fence, there was also a temporary extension of the fence to prevent errant balls from coming out.
Right.
Did you and your client consider staying within the code and having a portable fence that would basically go up and down when not in use?
Right. No, we've had not that discussion.
Do you have an opinion regarding,
Um,
other than the fact that it's not going to be permanent,
I think it might become somewhat of a nuisance, you know,
to whom?
number one, every time you want to go play because we're talking about 120 feet of fencing that you would have to manually raise and lower. I don't think it would be an easy task. I wouldn't even venture into thinking of what it would take to do that. I mean, obviously, you could do that with a basketball hoop, where you can crank it up, but, you know, again, we're talking about 120 feet only on one side. You have, so a total of 240 feet doing the 3 sides. It would be somewhat arduous, in my opinion.
No, I'm not advocating, I'm just saying, did you consider that as an option?
No.
Okay.
7:49 p.m.
Thank you for that.
Sure, some of them, I'll take it.
Not me.
My time's up?
Yeah. One of the, I guess, the considerations is that there's dual jurisdiction here. And the planning board sometimes goes first, and sometimes they go second. And when they go first, they sort of clear the field of the major obstacles, all right, which in this particular case, the major obstacle to me is the joining of the two, you know, the properties to be able to put things where they are. In this case, they asked us to jump in beforehand. So if you go through logically what could happen by that process, if the zoning board denies the application, then what's the point of putting, you know, a large fence there? The applicant would have to either follow the code or not do the project, which would be a significant decision on their point. If we approve it, I think you brought up the question,
Making it contingent.
yeah, you're almost telling the planning board, you know, here's the ball, there's no defense, run with the ball, you know, and do your things, whichever you have to do.
Except they can deny for various other reasons,
Well, I think,
if they chose to.
If,
I think the mindset on the planning side is that, you know, you're showing a 10-foot fence on a plan that we're gonna approve. It's not our jurisdiction because, again, it goes against the code. We have to get approval from this board for them to give it the thumbs up, right? So,
Don, I have a question. I think I know the answer, but I just wanna make sure. Because, again, I'm a little troubled by I don't know if that's the right word, but the cart before the horse. You know, the planning board
Understood, yeah.
not making a decision. And as I kind of feel, as I'm trying to work my way through this, I gotta be honest, I'm not sure I'd feel the same way today as I would if we went after the planning board. I don't know. It's just, you know, my mindset might be a little different. But if we denied the variance today, and the zoning board, the planning board approved the merger, and they don't need a variance for the tennis court, right?
Right,
Just so they do the merger, and then they come back, the applicant, and asks for a variance, they could just come back a second time. Is that correct?
Yeah, they could have the existing conforming fence
Right.
and get it approved by planning,
Right.
and then come before the zoning board and saying, you know.
Even if we denied the fence first?
Well, they could withdraw the application and
If-
then
if
deal
we-
with the planning board first,
Or-
right? I mean, isn't that possible? Or
they-
delay,
Or they
delay.
make a slight change, it would be a different application, somehow, right? I would think that if, I'm just saying, if it was denied, planning board approves the merger, then we come back, and maybe there's the same plan, or maybe something slightly different, that's a possibility.
Keep in
Am I-
mind, the planning board could theoretically deny, if we don't approve the variance now, the planning board could look at it and say, well, we're not gonna approve this with with 5-foot fences.
Right.
And so the whole thing goes down the tubes, because we're not gonna approve this unless you can have a
I
10-foot fence,
think, I
and the zoning
think the
board says
point
no.
is, if we were to approve the variance, it shouldn't be seen by the planning board as a signal that, okay, go ahead and approve the whole plan. They need to make their own decision.
Right.
And I think that's the issue. It's not,
Right.
and that's what Don was saying, is that our approval is contingent on their approving
Right,
all the other
exactly.
stuff. And
Well,
I think
was the
that's the right,
intent,
I think
was,
that's
yeah,
the
come
right
here,
approach.
get your approval
In other
or
words,
not.
right.
Yeah.
Come back and say.
Or
okay,
if
we're
they
putting
deny
up
the tennis
6
court, we don't want you putting up a 10-foot fence around the pool.
Right.
You
Which
know,
is
where-
why I said make it contingent upon.
Well, that,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's, I think
Yeah.
that's the right way to go, not, I don't know if it's a cart before the horse, it's just tying them together.
I agree.
And if they were to not approve the
Yeah.
the tennis court or the merger
Well, I
or
don't think
anything.
there's any, at least, we've had 2 meetings already in the planning board.
Okay, but we're not at those meetings.
No, understand, I'm just filling you in. So, there was more concern about drainage, number one.
You got Caltex put in, right? If I'm not mistaken, I saw that.
55 of them?
Yes,
Yeah,
So-
major league drainage.
Right.
Of course, the court being 7,200 square feet, that in itself is taking 30.
right.
And then we're picking up the residence, the driveway, the whole lot. So there was never any indication that, they weren't gonna approve it. It was a matter of make it, build it right, capture all the drainage, which is always number one concern, address the neighbors and
Right.
the fence, be it 6 or 10 feet. They want it, they don't wanna see it. Sound mitigation, which, with all the buffering of the landscaping, plus the attenuation screening, we're doing everything in our power to make it, make satisfaction to the
And
neighbor.
on the screening, you saw the nice pictures of what it's gonna look like. I mean, I want it to be that, it's gonna be that dense. In other words, you don't just put up 5 arborvitae and say that that's.
Another point that,
that's
Mike
enough.
Nowak and the planning board, about planting, of course, and they said, we don't want instant gratification where everything is tightly knit and then they're falling apart in 5 years. Plant them properly with the right
No, I'm
spacing.
I'm not saying not to, but I mean, I'd go the opposite, like, oh, we only need to put 5 of them over 40 feet.
Right.
That's,
Yeah,
I mean, I assume they've gotta be,
We're gonna
4 or 5
plant
feet
smart,
apart.
So again, it's gonna benefit, Jason, on the long term, so that, again, he's gonna, obviously, there's a lot of landscaping that he's gonna have to maintain and, have maintenance to it, but, in order to do it right and make it look right, and again, have the pictures of mature emerald greens at 20 feet tall, growing in nicely. I mean, there's some really beautiful. I drove down between Pine Ridge and Latonia. I stopped 10 times and took pictures of full-grown arborvitaes, mostly on street corners, but, for privacy. And, at maturity, you see nothing behind it.
Yeah, that came up in another application where there was a debate between how many of these are you gonna plant. You mentioned before that you were comfortable with conditioning it on the proper maintenance. I'm not sure that that is our jurisdiction. It may be ARB's, but, I like the idea of the conditioning. And I think that I would be more comfortable if we were able to communicate through resolution to the planning board some of the things that would make me more comfortable with respect to approving a project like this.
We're only approving the fence. not approving the whole
Right.
project.
Exactly, yeah. Well, the application, I see it as a, so one of which is lighting, any lighting that would go on in the evening. Usually that's when lighting comes in. My concern is that this piece of property is going to have that on there for all future residents who may come and go as neighbors. So I would feel more comfortable in having a couple of conditions that I think are reasonable, and you may have already agreed to them with the planning board, but I would like at least the zoning board to be on record as having some of these concerns. A couple-
I wouldn't be in favor of that personally, simply because we're here knowing what the project is. It's the consolidation of the properties and building a tennis court. The question to us is simply, will we agree to a 10-foot fence surrounding this tennis court?
I agree with you there, except that I think some of the conditions, like no lighting, I think that's appropriate.
On the, why is that?
They could be
appropriate on the
attached to
fencing?
the fence.
Maybe attached. And I think we should also say something like no cover, no construction of a bubble or anything like that.
Well, the planning board can.
I think Don's point is that he wants them
Final
to,
resolution.
Don's point is that he wants it
No
in our
lighting
resol,
is-
he wants.
He wants to send a message to the planning board.
Once he turns over the house to the next
Exactly.
owner, if it's written,
Yeah, we'll open everything up. You may have detected that there are different jurisdictions between planning and zoning. And anytime there is a punt situation, and I think you referred to it earlier, as a punting situation. When one agency punts to the other, sometimes we feel handcuffed by making a recommendation and then clouding the decision in the next phase. And so if planning did all their homework and then said, okay, now see if you can convince the zoning board to give the variance.
And make themselves contingent upon us giving the variance, I think that would have been a little more logical in terms of,
my
Yeah.
understanding.
What we
was
don't want to
is
do is end up like this.
yeah.
And we don't want to make life extremely difficult for an applicant.
Yeah, because they said, well, you're not gonna go to planning, go to the zoning board, get the approval for the fence, so that when you come back, that's out of the way, whether it's, approved or denied, it's out of the way, we can move forward, dissect the rest of your project and, get it to the point where everybody's happy to rubber stamp it.
Okay, do you want to
Yeah.
please introduce yourself?
Of course. Thank you, everybody. Jason Ryan, 19 Dorchester, and also 23 Dorchester. Now, I appreciate everybody coming out. And we've talked a lot. The goal of the reason why we're here is because in a lot of those conversations on the planning board said that you're not going to probably have a tennis court if you don't have a fence that supports it. Full stop. And we're trying to do everything in our power to, in conjunction with what we're describing in the fence request, also create and address, some of the issues and questions and comments of the community. But inherently, we will not be putting up a tennis court if we cannot get a fence that supports the tennis court use, which is the 10-foot fence. Because it just doesn't work. It's not practical. It's not practical for the neighbors. It's not practical for anybody who's participating in that in particular. And recognizing you all weren't there, but in those conversations, that's why we were sent here after a couple interactions with the planning board. We have unequivocally agreed to no lights. Lights were never in our plan. We know that we still are a part of a community, and it's a tight-knit community, and the area we're in, it's pretty densely populated. And we have young kids. Those kids grow up, so we understand that, but we get frustrated if people are out late making noise, doing things, having lights, et cetera, too. And so our plans from the beginning have been no lights guidance or restrictions would be required on that, we're happy to do that at ARB, or with you all. But I think from a practical perspective, a tennis court without a 10-foot fence is not good for the community. You know, notwithstanding if there's a belief that a tennis court is not good for the community, that's a different story, but they're inherently, that is inherently linked. And then the pieces that we've tried to put structurally, what I've been calling kind of a layer cake, right? Finding ways to mitigate noise through layers. Finding ways to mitigate sight lines through layers. Even as the property matures, that is the goal. And so from the front of the property, as Chris mentioned, and actually, you know, we didn't want to lose that big tree because that was a big layer for us, but we lost a big tree, but we're going to put 3 big trees in front to help support the higher eye view from the street. And then we put in the arborvitaes, that's a second layer, which supports the lower. And then we put the emerald greens, which is another layer that, you know, basically blocks the fence. And
Is there another tree, I'm sorry, is there another tree there now on the plot?
there is not. So in the front of the lot,
Yeah,
in the front of the lot, that came down during the storm.
okay.
So-
Because I thought I drove by and I thought I saw, I'm not sure where it is.
I think it's in the middle.
Right.
There's a
there is
Oh,
tree.
that middle tree
That
is,
was
that middle
behind
tree
you.
is dead. It's,
Okay.
most of the tree, all of
Right.
the lot, and this is with review board, the lot has to be cleared and re-landscaped and replanted. Many of those trees actually aren't trees.
Right.
They're 50-year weeds, to be honest. So it is a full rework of the lot to support continuity between the 2 lots as we merge, to support aesthetics from views from the various adjacencies coming from the back, from the side, and from the front. And then they're going to serve purposes as well with regards to noise and sight vision, et cetera, too. So that is the goal. So what we're going to request is those 3 trees are actually gonna be on the town property where the trees were previously, and planting 3 full trees there.
What is the elevation, and the fencing is going to go into dirt or into the hardened surface?
So
I see steps
the proposed,
coming toward the street, so steps imply they're in the drawing.
no, yeah, well, the house has been demolished, so any steps, there's no steps of it, so actually, yeah, so on the site plan, I guess right here,
There are steps,
yeah.
which imply elevation, so I'm wondering,
This is an overlay of the existing the existing house is still showing as an overlay, that's why.
so it's going to be at ground
Not
level?
there anymore.
And the fence is going to be in dirt or in hard surface?
The entry to the court?
The fencing all the way around,
Yes, of course, concrete.
it's going to be in concrete.
Those are 2-inch steel posts.
So essentially at ground level,
Yes,
at grade.
yes,
Okay, good. All right.
yeah. So you have roughly a 4.5, 5-foot elevation from the court to the curb.
But
Because that's sloping, so we have to go for a steep slopes. There's a old retaining wall here that's being removed. So this whole area in here slopes quite a bit. So there's this whole area in here from front to back, that slopes roughly 4.5 feet from where we're gonna wind up planting the trees to the street. But yeah, all the posts on the entire court will be in concrete.
So I'm just wondering if it's 10 feet on top of something, a raised grade, then it's actually,
So top of post from the actual base grade of the
Be
concrete
10.
tennis court was 10 feet.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Are there any other questions? Okay,
Just so I'm clear, our decision is irrelevant to what the planning board decides one way or the other.
Not really, only because, I think as was said, the planning board has said, if you don't have a fence, we're not gonna approve this. So it's relevant that way.
Right, but if we approve the variance, then the tennis court can be built as of right, because there's no setback issues.
Yes,
Is that correct?
Right, we're within the set, yeah, right now we're complying with all codes.
So,
Impervious,
Setbacks.
yes,
So-
setback, which the zoning says 6 feet, we went to 15 because we need room for, obviously, the planting.
So Don, just,
if the properties were not merged,
Glenn, let me just clarify. So one of the reasons why they brought before the planning board is because of the increase in impervious coverage. So anytime you have that amount of land disturbance, you need to go to the planning board anyway. So it's not just for the lot merger, it's also because of the development that's going there that you need planning board approval.
could they build if the lots weren't merged, could they still build a tennis court there on a separate parcel?
No, they don't have a bigger,
Yeah.
the house was there.
We just, I mean,
We, it's,
some, yeah.
it would, you need a dwelling to be able to build something structurally like a tennis court. And so the merger of the lots is a combination of two needs. First, it's to allow the tennis court to be built without a dwelling. The second is we need to borrow a little bit of our impervious from our lots because a tennis court is large. So those are the two reasons that are driving the lot merger.
Okay.
So we would not be able to do any of this. Even if we had impervious area available on the lot, it would not be allowed, at least is what's been communicated to us, because you need a dwelling there, and we would not be, we'd have to build a 1,000-square-foot house in front of the tennis
Okay,
court.
so just so I'm clear, if we granted the variance, the planning board will take into account that we've granted the variance, but it's still their decision.
Exactly.
Yes.
to
Yes.
decide if
They
wanna go
could
with-
theoretically deny on other grounds if they so chose.
Or change things.
Or change, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, we're going
Additionally,
now.
can I just clarify that the planning board also could approve a tennis court with a 5-foot fence?
Correct. As opposed, then the applicant may say, I don't want to build it with that 5 foot. It wasn't the planning board that would reject it, it would be the applicant. Okay, we're going to go to the audience now, and Steve, do you have the letters before you in terms of, we're going to go, those in favor of the application? We received a couple of letters. Can you just identify the source of the letters? Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a little lull. So just looking at the different scenarios. So even if we deny the variance, the planning board can still approve the project, allow a 5-foot fence.
Actually, 6 foot
6 foot
on the
fence.
sides and back. It's just the front that
They
has to
could.
be 4.
Okay, and we didn't hear whether you would go ahead with it or not, so we don't know, for argument's sake. They could still build a tennis court, no matter what,
Right.
right?
But it would be, it would be more, I think, more problematic to the neighbors having the shorter fence.
Right, no, right,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand, which goes back to, I wish the planning board personally
I agree.
would have done this first, and I have a different
Yeah.
view of this,
But they
but,
didn't.
okay, yep, okay.
Okay.
Letters done.
No, those in favor, just those in favor now.
That was
We have-
Susan and Andrew Rosen, and Jolene, and an email from Jolene Shiner.
Okay. Just as a point of information, the zoning board, according to New York law, must base all its decisions on 5 factors. And one of those factors is not the quantity of letters for or against an application. You can have a full room of everybody wanting to pull out the hair on our heads, and if it meets those 5 criteria, which we are obligated to justify in making our decisions, then that's just a matter of opinion. As long as we follow the law, I think that's the key to any decisions we make. So those are 2 letters in favor. Steve, two in favor?
Yes.
Okay. And is there anyone in the audience now who wants to speak in favor of the application? Okay, let there be none raising their hand. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak against the application? Please come forward, state your name, address, and nature of your concern.
And I just want to state, just to be clear, where we should be limiting it to the issue of the fence.
Yes, I'm strictly talking about the fence. My name is Fred Krawczyk. I live at 24 Dorchester Drive, which is right across the street.
Across the street.
I do want to say that my windows, my front windows, are elevated about 10 feet off the ground, so the fence will seem that much more enormous to me because I'm elevated with my view. I took a picture today. If you want to take a look at that, I can show you. This is from my window.
Okay. Can I pass this along?
Sure. So if it goes out, just hit it.
And this is from your
My
first
my
floor
front
window.
Looking out on the property. Thank you.
So are you saying that you would prefer a shorter fence?
Yeah, quite honestly, that is exactly what I'm saying, because a 10-foot fence elevated, both the street line is 5 feet or higher from the elevation of the ground up to where the courts are being built, and then on top of that, you have a 10-foot fence at that
But
point.
you're gonna be looking at trees, not the fence.
I'm looking at a fence, 10-foot fence that's going to be standing, because there's no trees that are going to be immediately able to cover the site. My sight line is going to be of a fence. I don't want to see a 10-foot fence. That's not what I had before I saw a home. Now I have to see a fence, and that to me is objectionable. I understand, first of all, Jason and Angela are really nice people. I like them a lot. They're wonderful neighbors, they're good people, but I don't need a fence to have that looking out and seeing a 10-foot fence, and especially because it's elevated on top of everything else. And so I object for that reason, and I'm the only one who has that view. So, in fairness, nobody else on either side or on the sides is going to be seeing a 10-foot fence because they're looking at it from different angles. But from my house, it's definitely going to be an eyesore for me because I don't want to have to look at that. As far as, and I think that everything that Jason and Angela have done is first class and very lovely, but the trees and the bushes and the arborvitaes and all of these things are never going to cover that fence. It's gonna,
How far is your property line from where the fence would be approximately?
well, if you're telling me that the court is going to be 150 to 70 feet back, and then you can add another 50 feet between my house front and from my windows to the.
Well, from your, what I'm thinking about, I'm just curious, is one of the reasons for a 10-foot fence is to prevent balls from flying over.
And I understand that.
So my question, I guess, is putting aside their inconvenience in having to retrieve balls and knowing that you're not going to be the owner of your property forever, what's the likelihood of balls going from
No,
their
it's
fence area
zero.
onto your property if
Zero.
it was a lower?
In my opinion, zero.
So
There's
that
too
being
much
said, the
there's too
only
much grass
benefit.
between it would never get to the street.
All right, so that being said, the only benefit of a 10-foot fence, at least on that side, would be their convenience, not having to retrieve balls.
I agree with that. that's pretty much what I wanted to.
And which side, I'm sorry, on which side of the court is that? That would be,
The front.
The one of those
Yeah.
short sides.
My house is literally on the front. Thank you for your concern.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience? Please come forward. Again, state your name, address, and concerns.
Philip Schiller, and I reside at 84 Country Ridge Drive. I'm against having a tennis court. on
Where exactly in position of this house is
I
your?
walk by that property every day, and if you'd let me finish, I think you might get it.
Okay, good.
Thank you. I'm against having a tennis court on 23 Dorchester because it's not in line with the rest of the neighborhood. That's what I'm concerned about, number one. And it would set a dangerous precedent in the community, because once you approve something like this, you can't really deny it. And another question that I have, I guess this probably could be the zoning area. They want to put they have a 4,200 square foot house. They already have a pool.
You have
They
to
wanna put a
address
pool-
the board only,
I'm sorry.
please.
They already have a 4,200 square foot house on this property. They already have a pool on this property. They want to put a pool house on the property, and they want to put a tennis court on the property, a property with the combined size being less than 1 acre of land. Now, I have a question on one of the presentations where I think you said the distance between the street looking in is 75 feet. The tennis court fence, I think you said, is 120 feet, right? That's 195 feet. That whole property's only 200 feet long.
It's 200 plus the village right of way.
All right?
It's 200 plus the right of way, which is not included in the 200.
We have a television audience, and for the benefit of the viewing public, anyone speaking should be at the podium, either asking a question
or the
answering a
remote mic.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please direct the questions to the board.
So it just seems really, really, really crowded. And I'd hate to set a precedent like that.
But again, we're only here for a fence.
I understand,
Yeah.
I understand, but I feel I need some kind of a voice to issue my opinion.
Yeah.
And since you did say, does anybody want to speak?
Yeah,
who's
That's
but-
fine.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
favor of
Yeah.
it, I'm
But
exercising
just so
my
you
right to do that.
understand, our decision has nothing to do with the whole project.
Yeah,
Totally
you,
understand.
you have the right to, I think on August 14th, is it?
Planning board.
I'm not
Go to
sure.
the planning board.
August 14th, I think it's the 14th, I'm not sure. 13th? I don't want to give you the wrong date.
It's a week from this Thursday.
Okay.
There's a big sign.
When
on
he
it.
speaks, he knows. So when you walk by the house, you'll get the right date. And the planning board, you can address your concerns as well, because again, a different function and a different issue. And I may or may not completely agree with you, doesn't matter. But the point is, today,
Right.
here,
Right.
as these gentlemen have said, we are strictly and only concerning ourselves with the fence and keeping our personal opinions on the property and what he wants to do out, because that's not our purview tonight.
Well, you did ask.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And you want to address your concerns,
No,
you
I'll
can do that at the planning board.
I
Right,
do have
right.
concerns
Yeah,
I have to
yeah.
address,
Right,
and
right.
Thank you for letting me
Right,
voice my opinion.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Someone else want to speak?
Speak into the microphone because the recording is
Hi, my name is Joel Hecker, 80 Country Ridge Drive. My comments are not to the fence itself, but to the procedure and what I hope you will do. And I'm coming from a historical basis. I served on the zoning board for 17 years, most of it as chair, and we had a policy, an informal policy, of not making a decision which might not be final because another board might do something different, which would obviate the zoning decision. And I listened carefully to what you said, and I agree with what you have. For instance, the planning board may decide, as you said, a 5-foot fence, or they may say a 12-foot fence. They may put something else involved on it and will require you to start all over because your decision granting the variance would no longer have any merit. And again, I come from a historical view, and that's certainly not binding on you, but I think it should be in consideration that you normally would not make a decision that is not a final decision because unless it's contingent on something which is already set. In other words, if the planning board had already said the tennis court's a go if you give them the variance on the fence, then I think it would be appropriate and proper for you to make that decision. But because the planning board hasn't even gotten close to making a decision, I think anything you do on the fence would be premature, and I just think it would set a bad
Unfortunately,
precedent for what you are doing as a board.
Unfortunately, the planning board took a different position. I hear you, but that's why we were talking about making a decision contingent on planning board approval.
Yeah, I understand that.
I know.
No, but
It's
in
a chicken.
in my experience, we had that many times, that a different board passed the buck to us, and we just passed it back because we thought it was inappropriate.
And then they pass it back and we pay.
No, they did not, because they had to make a decision.
You're playing ping pong.
We hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
Thank-
okay, thank
Your
you. That's
your
all I wanted
historical
to do.
input is valuable, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, please.
Nancy Schiller, 84 Country Ridge Drive. My one concern, I understand how Fred must feel with looking at a fence, but I think my issue is that having that 5-foot fence on the property, I walk the neighborhood all the time, I walk dogs, and having a 5-foot fence, not everybody is a professional tennis player. That ball could go diagonally over that 5-foot fence and go out into the street, hit me on the head, hit the dog, and that's not a good thing. So I think it should be all around high, very high, and I like that idea about raising, temporarily raising it while you're playing, because I know it would be an eyesore, but at least it wouldn't go out into the street or onto the other neighbors' properties.
Well, the temporary raising, if I understand, would only be if instead of doing a permanent fence, they had some sort of temporary fence
Oh,
that they would roll out or something of that
And that-
nature when they
well,
want to play.
I don't think that would look as good, and it would be.
I thought you meant attached
Nah,
where
yeah.
we go,
No,
okay.
No,
Then it would have to,
it wouldn't make a lot of sense, honestly, probably.
My other concern is, we have a neighbor at 100 Country Ridge Drive. He put a fence around his property. He wanted to put a 6-foot fence all around. He was told he could not do that. He had to make it 5 feet everywhere except in the back. So why should there be an exception for a 10-foot fence?
I'm
just
sorry, what's the question? I didn't hear your question.
He was told when he wanted to put up a 6-foot fence all around, he had to put up 5 feet everywhere except in the back of his property. So I don't think it's fair that you have an exception to have put up 10 feet, which is an eyesore to, obviously, for people like Fred, and to anybody walking the street if they can see it from the street.
The fences around the house have a different requirement, like.
6 feet on the sides, 4 in the front.
Right.
However, it's important to realize each application is unique, and therefore, we must look at the specific situation before us. We cannot, we've had many cases where, we've approved fences, and other cases we've disapproved fences, and because each situation was unique. So the issue of a precedent is not being set, by any decision we make here now. It will inform future decisions, but we'll have to look at each situation as its own application. And it's very hard for us to justify something that was done beforehand without having the documentation in front of us.
And it is the whole purpose of this board, really, to determine whether the circumstances dictate that there should be an exception or not to a particular code.
And we make a statement every time that one decision is not precedential on another, because each house is different and each situation is different. So we hear your concerns, but we do very much think about what does this look like to the rest of the community? So it is a valid concern, and we do think about it.
Again, I'm just concerned about that 5-foot area.
no,
It's a valid
it's a
point.
valid point, so thank you.
Thank you. Steve, it's my understanding that one of the letters we received against the application was from the folks who spoke this evening.
Who's Ressa Waldman? I don't think she didn't speak yet. She's not here. She's on vacation.
So there's
Yeah.
another application.
Right. There's
that-
another letter, but
another-
that person is on vacation.
Right, and I think we all read the letter, and our decision will be informed by that.
There's someone else.
Okay, please come forward.
Good evening, I'm Richard Shapiro from 120 Country Ridge Drive. I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but I thought I should just add one comment, putting aside questions of procedure that were made a little bit earlier, and any other issues that are really before the planning board. And I've communicated some comments to the applicant in that regard. But addressing solely the fence, I have the opposite perspective. I am immediately behind where the tennis court will be. Not the street side, but the other. So
Right.
we're back. I'll be back to the tennis court. And from my perspective, at least for the shared property line, a 6-foot fence, as has been suggested by some people, is absolutely insufficient. It has to be higher. So from the vantage point of my property and the shared line with the Dorchester property, some type of variance is essential. If it remains at a lower level, that's very problematic for me.
How far would the tennis court be from the property line? 15 feet. And from the other gentleman who spoke, how far is it, and I think you said it, but if you could just remind us, how far from and I understand the back, how far from the front fence to the street where you'd have trees anywhere? If you had a lower fence facing the street, 6 foot,
4 feet.
why 4 feet?
Can't be 6 in the front. It's got to be 4.
No, further back, further back.
You were saying the street.
No, I didn't mean to straight. I apologize if I was clear. Where the 10-foot fence is by the trees, the back of the tennis court, right? The part of the tennis court closest to the street. If you had a lower fence there, how far, regardless of the low fence, how far is it to the street so this gentleman wouldn't see that 10-foot fence? Because now you have the opposite concern of you. The balls would not make it that far to the street.
From
If
my
that
end,
was a
it's very
concern.
close.
Right. I understand yours. I'm just wondering again,
74 feet from the
70.
fence to the curb.
to the curb.
Yeah.
Okay.
You wanted to,
It-
you talking about the other gentleman that was here who lives across the street?
Yes, this gentleman,
Right,
yeah.
So assuming his house, based on setbacks,
Yeah.
40-foot setback plus the village right-of-way,
Yeah.
another 13 to 15, plus the roadway, 30.
No, but, yeah, I'm more concerned Chris, about
Probably
the,
about 150.
yeah, I'm more concerned about actually the street balls coming. So, was there any
I think
discussion?
it really has to be an errant ball
Right.
to wind up
Right.
reaching the street.
Right, like that Liberty commercial, right? So, is there any thought about,
Whereas boys are really strong.
any thought about a lower fence back in the tennis court? And then you'd still have trees
It still has to
and
get through, right.
and maybe, just a thought, was I've thought about a smaller fence near the street that would block any balls from rolling onto the street? I'm just wondering if that was ever a thought in your a thought.
It wasn't, thanks for asking it. The practicality of when you're playing tennis, it's a north-south game,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so inherently, if, in a weird way, it's easier to cut the sides down
It would look
But-
strange, but you,
But you can cut the sides down, and that's fine, but you're playing a north-south game, and so if we took that, what is the front of the court, which is facing the street, down in size, it becomes impractical from a usage standpoint.
You'd be running off the court a lot, coming out the side, retrieving balls.
Potentially every shot, right? Because first, anybody who's serving, you're going that way, and then even similarly, it's at least 50% of the time. It's half the
I also worry about if anything is up in the street, not only what someone said before about hitting the person, cars coming, people running into the street.
No, but I'm saying, but a lower fence, I think the balls wouldn't be getting to the street
Not
They'd be
necessarily.
going right over
They
it.
go over the fence.
that far, and then, I don't know.
I mean, if you're gonna have a tennis court, and putting aside whether I personally think a tennis court's a good idea or not, but if you're gonna be a tennis court, I think you need the larger fences, the higher fences.
I'll make a point that any ball that's hit is on the back side of the court, so the court being 120 feet in its entirety, the player that's on the backside hitting a ball towards the street really has to pound it to even get it close to the street. So, once again, the distance from the front of the court to the curb is close to 80,
Well, that,
plus
but,
that distance.
but,
of-
right, but that was my point, is that I'm not sure I play a lot of tennis. I'm not sure I agree that those balls would go over a
6-foot
a
fence.
6-foot fence and roll to the street, right? And because you're saying it's a far distance, and it is. I recognize the practicality of a 3-sided 10-foot fence is better, looks better, and probably is better for you. I was just wondering if that was a concern for just anybody who had an issue, this gentleman, right? You can't keep everyone happy, but
Sure.
just if that was a thought. I think it's a possibility. I don't think it may be what you want or anyone else wants. It's just, I think that is a possibility, because I think there is enough room if you, especially if you had another fence before the street.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I appreciate the concept. I think, at least from applicant's perspective, the practicality is from the purpose of playing tennis, it withers away, right? Because of the way the game is played. Spoken a lot with many of the folks who are here in our community, which has led us to try and deliver these layers to manage the optics in particular, which I think is Fred's main point, who's right across the way. But the request for a 10-foot where we're asking it is functionality as well as safety, as well as managing some of the other things we're trying to address with regards to the neighbors, which is keeping balls out of lots and making sure that, when we put the noise protection, it's there, et cetera, as well. And so it's a balancing.
No, I understand. How long did you say you think the trees immediately in front of that fence would take to get?
Well, we're putting, so.
What are you starting at? Like, is there a number, like a?
Correct. It's
Yeah.
Our schematics have 6 to 8 feet for an emerald green.
To start.
To start, right.
Okay.
Emerald green, and at grade of fence, and the emerald greens will grow 2 feet a year.
Yeah.
Right, and so within 12 months, there's a path for that covered, but then we also, remember, have the layers of the 3 maples that we're putting in the front.
Right.
Which block the higher, and then the other layers too.
Yeah. I think the rapidness of the growth is important on the tree, because between our house we had the arborvitaes, and they seem to never grow. And the person who moved next door owned a tree cutting company. He said, "Oh, I'll put these trees." He moved them. These things grew like crazy. So I think that's important that we get immediate growth.
Yeah,
With
and it's a fair comment, and we've iterated the landscaping probably 20 times amongst us, and a couple times already with the board, and I think it's probably a board decision, but we are, the review board decision, but our objective is to sight, sound, and, the aesthetics as part of the broader plan, while also having practicality while we're being in the tennis court.
Right.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience want to speak against the application? Okay, there being none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, we've heard several factors. We're in a kind of unique situation, as we articulated, with respect to the chicken or the egg, who goes first. But when I first saw the application, my first reaction was the big picture. But then, when I looked further at I guess the action before us, it's very narrow. It's the fence, and nothing but the fence. So I felt that a couple of concerns that I had about a large fence like that was, what's the sight line from the street? And when I looked to see that it was 74 feet from the street, that, I guess, alleviated some of the concerns that I had, with the expectation that there'd be vegetation, but I wasn't quite sure how much vegetation. But that was brought out in the hearing today, that there's a substantial amount of vegetation in the front. I think that in the past, we have approved 10-foot fences for tennis courts. One happens to be around the corner from me. And I remember that case very well, because it was also a 10-foot fence on a sports court. And it was right up against the property line, and it was before us. So my concerns initially were the house that's behind the tennis court. And I'm glad that the current owner of that house was able to come before the committee, because I was hoping that one of the letters coming in, or one of the people speaking, would be from the immediately affected property. And that was the case. As I looked at the property and the amount of vegetation on the back, I could see that there was already some vegetation there. My next major concern was the person immediately next to that empty lot, what their sight lines would be. And once again, that was addressed with the vegetation that came before us. So I still have the reservations, though, about the conditions that were mentioned earlier. I think in the letters that we received, my own personal recommendation coming forth from this application, and I've discussed this with village attorney and with the building inspector, Rye Brook should have a specific codicil with respect to sports courts going forward. I think other communities have it, and they've been able to be withheld, and they were reasonable. Many of the conditions were reasonable, having sound impact, lighting impact, coverage, roof coverage. So I would feel more comfortable with the application if we could condition it with a couple of those conditions, so that when it goes before the planning board, they would recognize our concerns, some of our concerns, and explicitly consider them in the application before us. But what I would like to ask members of the board, in addition to any additional comments they would have, I'd like to go through the 5 factors and get your take on those before a resolution is read. Because when I look at the 5 factors, which are predicated by New York State law, we're obliged to follow them, regardless of what our personal opinion happens to be. And that's one of the decisions I think that our current society is wrestling with, opinion versus fact. So here goes the 5 factors that we're going to consider for this application. The requested variance will or will not create an adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. So will a 10-foot fence negatively impact the character of the neighborhood? Neighborhood immediately being the immediate proximate area and a much larger area within the neighborhood. So how do we feel about that? Will the fence?
I would say yes, except to the extent that it's covered, then not really.
And that's where I was gonna go. If it's- if the vegetation is there, then I think it's
I
not.
agree- I agree with
Fence
that.
were there alone, I would say yes.
Yeah, I agree with
So
that.
I think the condition of the vegetation is key.
That's, if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, that's already been agreed to,
Yeah.
right, okay.
It's already been
Yeah,
agreed to,
yeah,
but
yeah.
if we wanna put it in the resolution.
But the applicant in the presentation said not just the existence of it, but the continued maintenance
Right,
of it.
right.
So that if vegetation happens to die,
Who's gotta replace it?
they would replace it
Right,
and
that's what I was
maintain.
concerned about.
Okay.
But I'm just kidding, what happens if they do an about face and they,
Who's they?
the applicant, and decides not to put, like, everything they've agreed to, like, where, is that the planning board that's
And they'll
already
have a
agreed?
violation of the certificate of occupancy, and
But-
they'll be liable.
Right, but where is it that they're gonna do X,
Is
Y,
it the
Z?
ARB or is it gonna be conditioned by the planning board, the
Right.
ARB in addition to
Right.
us?
It's not us. but-
Right, no, right, that's what I'm trying to understand, because we're gonna approve it based on what
I mean-
they've said, but we're not making a condition on those arborvitae's or the trees, right?
We are putting a condition that they have to be there, and they're gonna maintain them, but
Yeah.
we're not gonna be here
Right.
5 years from now,
Okay.
it's not up to us.
Install and maintain.
Okay.
Okay, those would be the words we would use? Okay, so then, having said that, are we comfortable with it will not adversely impact?
Yes.
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 Okay, the second factor is the benefit the applicant seeks can or cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant that does not require the variance.
Cannot.
Okay. 3, the requested variance is substantial.
Yes.
Okay. 4, the requested variance will not create any adverse impacts to the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. We heard in the application the number of storm management situations that were demanded of them by the building department and the planning department. So I think,
Yeah, but that's that, but there's also, didn't you say appearance as well?
now, the adverse impacts to the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood.
Okay. But that, again, this is not like we're conditioning a building based on water management, that's not here.
Mm.
It's not before us.
Yeah,
It's
and
related to
planning
us.
is considering steep slopes,
Right. So-
It's not us.
not
So I
us.
think we're good with it.
The need for the variance is definitely self-created. Okay, so we agree then on the imposition or the impact of the 5 factors on the application, okay, and we'll vote accordingly. At this point, Pam, do we have any crystallization of additional conditions that we would put on at this point so that she has some time to write them when we get to that
I
point?
thought we were talking about, and even though the planning board is saying it, or the applicant said it, no lights,
Okay, no lighting,
no coverage, no bubble or anything put
yeah,
over it.
no coverage, and
There was another one.
there was a sound mitigation.
But they're doing that. They're putting the sound mitigation on, so let's put it in there, but they said they're
Yeah.
gonna do that.
Right,
And the installation and maintenance of the greenery.
right. Okay, Pam, do you have those?
Would you repeat them? Can you repeat them one more
Lighting,
time?
lighting,
No lighting.
no lighting, the installation and maintenance of
Greenery.
greenery, the,
No bubble.
no bubble, and
And sound
sound.
Mitigation.
Yeah. Yeah, no loudspeakers attached to the fencing. You comfortable with that?
Is that an additional condition?
Yeah, if it's attached to the fencing. You know, any vote that I have would be that there be no sound attached to those fences.
So no talking while you're playing tennis.
No, no, look, I happen to listen to music that I really would not rather hear from my house on a daily basis. So, since we have jurisdiction over a fence, speakers are usually raised off the ground to attach to the house, but nothing on the fence.
No what?
No lighting.
It's no lighting.
We don't
It's
want
not-
lighting
it's
going
not-
into the neighbors' houses at night.
Yeah, the
We don't want
condition is
people-
not no electrical, it's no
we
lighting.
don't- We don't want people playing tennis at night
Yeah.
and waking the neighbors.
Okay,
No fireflies.
here comes the resolution then. Whereas an application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Jason Ryan and Angela Ryan, collectively the applicant for an area variance concerning maximum allowable fence height in connection with the proposed chain link fence for a tennis court on property located at 19 and 23 Dorchester Drive in an R15 zoning district on Rocking Horse Trail and Dorchester Drive. Said premises being known and designated on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID 129.67-1-2 and parcel 129-67-1-1, collectively called the property. Whereas on June 11th, the Planning Board referred the aforesaid area variance to the Zoning Board of Appeals as the Planning Board considers the applicant's request for subdivision, lot merger, site plan, and steep slopes approval. And, I mean, the word considers approval, okay? So the verb and the object were quite a distance apart. They haven't approved anything, they just considering the approval. Whereas on March 7th, 2017, the Zoning Board of Appeals granted area variances for the property concerning side yard setback and total of 2 side yards, application number 18-009, and to exceed the maximum allowable GFA, application number 16-036. Those were not discussed during the meeting, but they were given previously to the property, so they have to be included in the resolution. Whereas the applicant seeks relief from the following requirements of the Rybrook zoning code. 1, Section 250-6, Section B, Items 3, Part A. The maximum allowable fence height in the rear and side yard is 6 feet. The applicant's proposed fence for the tennis court will result in 10-foot fence to be installed within the side and rear yard of the property, thereby requiring a variance of 4 feet. Okay, I'm going to stop at this point. Pam, shouldn't there be a variance granted on part of the side where the 5 foot is going, but they're going to have part of it being 10 foot on the side also?
Inside of the property, that's not the outside.
So Don, the side yards are up to 6 feet, so that would be a 4 foot, and then like I said, from north to south, that's the front and the rear is a 4 foot. Well, just the front is 4 foot, so the front would be 6 feet.
Yeah, but the side is allowed 6, but they're
Allowed
asking
6.
for 10.
Right.
So shouldn't that be part of the resolution, that we're giving them the 10 feet on the side?
Right. So for the sides, it would be an additional 4 feet. Except that on one side, on his side that abuts his property, he's only going to do a 5 foot fence. But on the side, the opposite side of him, he's allowed 6 feet, and he's supposed to go up. He's going to go up an
Yeah,
additional 4.
I don't think I'm making myself clear. The side where the existing house is, it's going to be 10 feet, 5 feet, and then 10 feet again. So therefore, we must give the variance to that 4 feet on the side of the house, on the side of the existing house. That should be part of the resolution. Because right now, you're only approving 3 sides and not the 4th side. They'll be in violation.
Oh, because the side close to the house is partly going to be 10 feet anyway.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
So there has to
Yeah,
be a
yeah,
variance for
yeah.
that. Or else we have an incomplete resolution, incomplete approval.
To clarify, there's a fence on the front yard,
Yes.
That's a 10-foot fence proposed.
It's included in the resolution as it's read. But the side closest to the house is not included in what I just read.
And I'm not sure, this is the 20 feet from the back, going to the middle of the property on each side are gonna be 10 feet, and then there's gonna be an opening
5 feet.
between those.
5 feet, yeah.
And then there's gonna be an area for them to walk through, but there'll be 10 feet on the two parts closest to the house.
Correct. And that's not in the resolution as I read it.
Are you?
The fence that has 10 feet, but then a 5-foot,
In between.
Okay, let me just say, this is their tennis court, this is the street, this is the street for you. 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, they're gonna have 10 feet here, 10 feet here, here's their house, and it's gonna go down to 5 feet, or I'm not sure.
It's like a U.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna do that.
5,
Sorry,
yeah.
where the house is.
That would be the gate.
well, that would be considered a side fence that is permissible at 6 feet, and we're giving the variance to 10 feet for the two sections
Right.
that are on either side of the 5-foot lowered entry walkway.
Okay, then I would interpret it that way.
Okay.
Right? Okay, because it says will result in a 10-foot fence to be installed within the side and rear yard. So I would have to say sides, plural. There are two sides. Okay, that would cover it.
Side yards.
Yeah. Okay. I did, that's it. All right, that does it. All right, considering that, thereby requiring a variance of 4 feet plus or minus 6 2/3%, 66 2/3. Whereas the duly advertised public hearing was open and closed on August 4th, 2026, regarding the applicant's request for relief from the Rybrook Zoning Code 250, Section C, Part B, Item 3, Section A, at which time all those in attendance wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. Whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. Whereas the board, from the application and the record before it, after viewing the premises and neighborhood concerned, hearing from the applicant, and upon considering each of the 5 factors set forth in Section 250, Section 13, Part G, Item B, Sections 2A through E of the Rybrook Zoning Code, finds, and I went through the 5 factors before, so I don't have to repeat them now. Now therefore be it resolved that said application is hereby either granted or denied on the following conditions. 1, no permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicant has paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. And then, Pam, do you want to just mention for the board the conditions?
2, the Zoning Board of Appeals approval is contingent upon the following conditions. A, there shall be no lighting installed on the fence. B, there shall be no bubble installed over the court. C, there shall be no speakers or sound-producing devices attached to the fence. D, there shall be installation and continued maintenance of greenery. E, there shall be installation of sound mitigation measures.
And we also wanted a contingent upon the planning board approving the tennis courts.
Yes.
Excuse me, can I make a comment on that?
The hearing has been,
No, I understand, but when you say greenery, shouldn't
Right.
you specify the type of greenery that they said they were doing?
Greenery that will cover the fence.
Maintain screening.
Screening.
Screening, yeah.
okay, thank you.
With regard to the speakers, do we include radio?
Well, if somebody brings.
If they have a radio and it's not attached to the
Put it
fence,
on, we can't stop that. We
Can't
just- they
stop.
can't-
just as I can't ask my neighbors to lower their volume of their loudspeaker system. Okay,
Let me read the third condition.
yes.
Condition 3, the Zoning Board of Appeals approval is contingent upon the Planning Board approving tennis court on the property.
Okay, very good, all right. All right, we shall vote now. Steve,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Don, okay, yes. Application approved, 4 yeses, 0 nays, and 1 excused. Okay, and thank you very much, and good luck. Steve, do you think it's feasible to come up with a proposal for the Board of Trustees to amend the code to deal with sports courts in the future?
Something Keenan Bean, we'd have to talk to Keenan Bean about, maybe Jen Gray, and see if they could draft something. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get going to the next application.
Yeah, it's going to be quick. It's going to be quick. Okay, we're going to go to the next application now. Okay.
One second, gentlemen.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, that's
Thank
very
you.
nice of you, we appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Okay.
Be well. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, good luck now.
Thank you.
The next,
Sorry you had to wait so long, sir.
That's,
he's used to it.
I am actually.
Luck of the draw.
I've seen worse actually.
Yeah.
Not
you-
here, but.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, there have been worse here.
Okay, the next application, ZBA 26-010, David Marcus and Lauren Marcus, 25 Bonwood Road, construct a new deck. Okay,
You actually know how to do it, huh?
okay. About 15 years ago.
When we voted on that,
Hang in
As you astutely
there.
said, we're here for one function on that one, and you know, that's the functions.
I've not made my decision yet. I'm considering the
I know, please.
That shows in
I have to decide whether I have to make my retirement decision.
Oh, I didn't sign.
that's a different issue. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Thank you.
Right, but I think you were spot on.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's not related to the fence.
Yeah,
I didn't want to give any grounds for somebody challenging it, because we put things that weren't part of the fence, and that wasn't part of the fence.
Do you have technology, do you need assistance with the tech?
No, I've not usually had a problem with this, but, oh, that maybe. is the
That could be
issue.
it.
Somebody turned the TVs off?
I wonder if maybe they have like a sleep setting, yeah. Because it's detecting it on my computer, but it's not, I think they're right, I see it looks to me like they might be on.
David, did you turn the TVs off, David?
hit it with a Nerf.
There you go.
Okay,
Want
now they're
something good to
back.
watch?
Are you gonna watch Netflix? Is that what you're gonna do?
Yeah, it's just, well, it's showing my screen, that's good, yes.
Oh, what's it on tonight? The soccer guy, what's his name? The TV show.
Oh, Ted Lasso?
Ted Lasso's on tonight.
Okay,
I scared them all away, I thought they were here for me.
don't take it personally.
Wow.
Okay, well, I am Evan Sikowski. I am the architect for this project at 25 Bonwit, which is a proposed new deck. We have a lot that is a corner lot with some restrictive setback conditions, particularly due to the fact that it's a corner lot. Actually, some nonconformities as well with the house, as you can see on this. This is the proposed site plan. So we can see that actually the house over here in this corner actually crosses the required setback, and also in the rear it does, and that's just due to the, they constructed it parallel to the street there. So we would like to construct a new deck that is on the side, which is the Carlton Lane side of the house. The deck itself will comply with all of the other requirements, the other zoning requirements and code requirements for decks, and and coverage. This deck in this spot will connect, and I can have some images for you, which I'm sure you've seen. It will connect to where this door is. We're going to remove that existing set of steps right there. That door leads into their kitchen. And then this is the back side of the house. So on the left side of the screen over there, that is where the deck will be. Again, those windows, those smaller windows on the left are on their kitchen. This is obviously the most logical spot for the deck. Just I'll point out that on the other side of the house over there, the other side yard, which isn't really functional for this purpose anyway, but that's bedrooms, and because it's a split-level home, those are elevated and the garage is below that. So this is really the most logical spot for the deck. So we're requesting a variance to encroach upon that setback on Carlton Lane, and we're going to maintain compliance with the rear setback, and that is what we're asking for tonight.
What's the, we've dealt with the corner houses before. If this were, what's the setback requirement on the corner?
I actually meant, so the setback requirement for the yard, you mean for the street over here, is the, it's a
Same as
front
the
yard
front.
requirement.
Carlton.
It's the same as
40
you have in the
feet.
front of the house.
40 feet, so it's
It's-
because it's got two front.
45.
Yeah, it has two front yards. I was just going to say, because actually you reminded me of something that I wanted to mention. If this were an interior lot, we would be complying with the interior lot side yard, the sum of 2 yards.
That's what I was getting
requirement,
at.
Individual requirements as well. So we're
Right.
only here because this is a corner lot and we're more restricted because of that.
Right.
You know, when I looked at the first thing I thought of is how do we reduce the size of the variance?
Mm.
And I scratched my head, I scratched the other side of my head, and I
Don't
said,
tell us anything else.
there's really nothing you can do.
No.
Because if you reduce the size of the step down, you know, you're making it almost impossible to physically go up and down.
And it's
Right.
not usable. It's not that big a deck to begin with, right?
No, it's not. I mean,
So
again,
what's the size of
we're
it?
keeping it compliant with, so there's two things we're trying to stay within here. One is we don't want to add more than 400 square feet of coverage.
And you stayed
and-
really close to
And
it.
we're close, but we're under.
398.
And we also,
Just don't make
obviously we wanted to
no
comply. I
oopsies.
mean, we're well within the 4% allowed for the overall deck size, but.
Given the plot type and size and the usage, I think it makes sense.
Mhm.
Are you comfortable by having the board condition that there be nothing above the deck?
Yeah, I mean, the homeowners aren't here tonight, but I'm sure that they wouldn't object to that. I don't think there's an intention to add on to the
You say
house in this.
They can't cover it, they can't.
But if they wanted to
Right.
put an awning, could they put an awning on it?
That's a temporary item, so
It's
yeah.
attached to the
It's like
house.
if you do like one of those umbrellas, that spreads.
I mean, my
Yeah.
only question, I guess, is let's just say one day they said, hey, we want to add like an open pergola to this. I imagine that would still require us to come back
Yes,
here anyway,
pergolas
right?
usually
Yeah.
do,
Yeah,
because that affects the impervious.
yeah. It's not part of the
But
plans
we don't,
right
what
now,
we
but
don't
I'm
want to
just trying
approve is an
think.
addition to the house.
Sorry, say that again.
We don't want to approve an addition to that house.
Of course, right, of course.
Another bedroom or
I think
expand the kitchen.
In fairness, just to how I open this up, considering how restricted this lot is and the fact that there's two non-conforming conditions with the house itself anyway, they would need variances
Yeah.
regardless of any work that they would want to do, if that ever happened.
It's a very tight, crowded,
Yeah,
area there, because you can see that on both sides, that there's an awful lot of vegetation.
there is, especially on that left side of the house, which we didn't really talk about, but there is, you don't see that here on this plan, but there is a lot of vegetation.
Yeah, you can
there
see it
along
when
that
you
property
drive
line.
by.
Yeah.
Definitely. Any other questions of the applicant? Okay. When we go through the 5 factors, we're going to condition with respect to any covering.
Gotta open the meeting.
Oh, well, I open the meeting. Anyone other than Dave want to speak in favor of the application? There being none in the audience and no one has written anything in. Anyone want to speak against the application? There being no one here, nothing being written and submitted. Motion to close the public hearing? Okay, public hearing is closed. The only thing I think, would you say it's a substantial, it's a self-created, it's substantial?
Says, I guess.
9 feet, 9.6.
Over 40, so it's 25%?
Yeah, I would say that's substantial.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of, it doesn't look like there's anything the applicant can do short of doing this, okay? The, Rybrook forever. Do you want to, any impact on the environmental conditions that we're aware of? No? How about the character?
No.
No, it's pretty much screened and doesn't seem to be a major impact.
That's not out of
Okay,
normal.
let me go ahead with the resolution. Whereas they should all be this easy. I know. Whereas an application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by David Marcus and Lauren Marcus, collectively the applicant, for an area variance concerning the minimum required front yard setback in connection with a proposed deck on property located at 25 Bonwood Road in an R12 zoning district on the north side of Bonwood Road, approximately 0 feet from the intersection of Carlton Lane and Bonwood Road. That is, it's a corner lot. Said premises being known and designated on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID 135.50-1-33, the property. And whereas the applicant seeks relief from the following requirements of the Rybrook zoning code. Section 250-21, Part G, Item 1, which says the minimum required front yard setback is 35 feet. The applicant's proposed deck fronting on Carlton Lane will result in a front yard setback of 25.4 feet, thereby requiring a variance of 9.6 feet, or plus or minus 27.3%. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was opened and closed on August 4th, 2026, regarding the applicant's request for relief from the Rybrook Zoning Code, Section 250-21, Part G, Item 1, at which time all those in attendance wishing to be heard on the application were given such opportunity, whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly, no further environmental review is required. Whereas the board, from the application and the record before it, after viewing the premises and neighborhood concerned, hearing from the applicant, and upon considering each of the factors set forth as Section 250-13, Section G, Item B, Sections 2A through E of the Rybrook zoning code, finds what we said the 5 factors were a moment ago. Now therefore be it resolved that said application is hereby provisionally granted on the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicant has paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Second, and Pam, do you want to read that?
Should we go to a commercial?
Condition 2, the applicant shall not construct or install any structure above the proposed deck.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Steve?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Okay, Joel?
Yes.
Don, yes. Application approved, 4 yeses, 0 nays, 1 excuse. Congratulations, and again, apologize for the
That's okay. It
the
was
salami,
interesting to sit through,
the
to be
salami
honest.
making operation.
I learned something new tonight, actually.
Oh, that's good.
Well, you know, I do live in town also, so
Yeah.
there were moments where maybe I wanted to jump up and say something, but you know.
Could have.
Yeah. No.
Wait for the planning board.
That would have been my place.
Yeah.
Okay, the last item is the summary from last month. I had no problem with it. Are we ready to approve it?
Yes.
Okay, we all approve? Okay, summary approved. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved, okay, we're adjourning. Okay.